Good evening, dear all. Okay, we are so excited to see all of you, and we are going to get started very soon. Welcome to English Without Borders, Thursday series of webinars. And today we are so excited to see all of our followers joining the webinar via Zoom and also Facebook. And please, hurry up and join because we have today very outstanding speakers who are joining our webinar from Wisconsin, United States. And it's a great honor for me to introduce our guest speakers today. So we have Mr. John Hagemeister, who is the director of Bridge Virtual Academy, and we also have Miss Rachel. And let me just give some brief introduction about our speakers today. So Rachel Akey Podol is an art teacher in Bridges Virtual Academy, and she's a public charter school, which is a public charter school based in Wisconsin. With her 10 years teaching and her 4 years teaching fully remote, she has been doing quite well, and she often gets confused looks from people who ask her about a career. You teach art online? And today she is going to share her practical tips and also to demonstrate how it is possible, yes, to bring positive classroom environment online. And please join Miss Akey and Bridges Virtual Academy Executive Director, Mr. John Hagemeister, for a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to teach and learn online. You'll be guided through various topics such as classroom routines, conducting live Zoom meetings, and how to foster a positive classroom environment online. So please hurry up and join. And with great pleasure, I'm just going to give the floor to Mr. John Hagemeister. And so please don't forget to put your questions in the chat box in Zoom and also in the comment box on Facebook. So we will address your questions after the presentation to our speakers. Thank you so much. And over to you, dear guest speakers. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I think it's evening there. It's morning here in America. Welcome to our short presentation. And my name is John Hagemeister. I'm the executive director of Bridges Virtual Academy, which is a public charter school, which means it's a free school for all students in the state of Wisconsin. We've been in existence. This is our 12th year. I personally have been working in public education as a teacher and as an administrator for about almost 29 years now. And the last 12 have been with this project. And we really are excited about sharing different strategies for providing instruction in an online setting or virtual setting. And we've taken a lot of different approaches to doing that over the last 12 years. And I think that's really led to the success that we've had as a school. What's unique about our school is that we offer instruction in different pathways for students. So if a student comes to us and they're more oriented towards working independently, we have a pathway for them to do that that's guided by a teacher. If they want a teacher-led synchronous instruction, kind of like what we're doing here, we have an option for that. And then our teachers are also very versed in project-based learning, which is more competency-based and focused on the process of learning more than just the product of learning. So our students come to us at the younger grades and they learn the skills to engage their content in those different ways. And then as they grow, they can select for themselves which way they want to learn. And so that's really what sets us apart from other online or virtual schools in the state of Wisconsin and throughout the country. Our school has been successful in comparison with other schools in Wisconsin. And we've even recently had some national recognition for the success that we've had because it's been consistent. So what I feel like we can offer to your organization is teaching strategies that that teachers can either adopt or look at and say, no, this wouldn't work for me. But we just have a lot of different and unique ways that we provide instruction to students. So I'm hoping that this partnership continues because I have some very eager teachers that want to share some things and learn from everybody in this organization. In addition, it would be nice to have student to student partnerships, if that's something possible, classroom to classroom, because I think sharing the different cultures and different ways that people live throughout the world, I think that's important. And that would be one really unique thing that would be easy to do in our setting because we are online and we can connect in ways like this. So today, Rachel Akey is going to share her instruction, some of the ways that she does things in her art class, because like she said before, art is one of those content areas that people would wonder, how do you do that in an online setting? But it's really incredible the way that she engages students, and students really do incredible work through the instruction that she and our other art teachers provide. And we're happy to show that off. So I thank you for the opportunity to be sharing a little bit about our school, and I look forward to more opportunities in the future. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Miss Akey Podol.
Thank you. So with my presentation, I'm going to kind of share what it's like to be in my classroom. So these slides look really similar to what I would share with students. And we usually start with an attendance question. I'm not going to make you answer this, but the attendance question is a good way to get all of the students engaged and ready for class. I usually keep the attendance question light and fun. Sometimes it's related to our topic that we will talk about for the day. Sometimes it's not. I think it's really important just to break that barrier and get students talking. So I usually start the semester with talking about pets because we are working from home, and so are our students, and distractions happen, whether their camera is on or off. So I like to kind of address those right away. Pets are a big thing that students love to talk about. Sometimes they're right in their laps too. So I always try to get that positive feel and environment started right away. All right, so a little bit about me, because again, it is important to learn more about each other personally, so that they know there's actual humans behind the screen when they are working with each other or with me. So my background in teaching really had nothing to do with online or virtual instruction until I started at BVA. And I was working on my master's degree when I got hired. So I switched my focus in my master's program to building relationships in an online learning environment. And I chose that focus because I wanted to bring the magic of the art room to students online, because I didn't want them to miss out on that experience. So I felt like that focus really helps me grow as a teacher, especially as a virtual school teacher as well. Yeah, so with that, after I give my introduction, I usually focus students back up with today's goals. Because sometimes talking about pets can get kids off topic or just introducing ourselves too. So we already had the overview from Mr. Hagemeister, and he can answer more questions at the end too. I'm also going to show what it's like to teach art online and try to give a live demonstration of how I might teach artistic techniques, and I will model breakout sessions as well. I always let my students know too that there are different ways to ask questions, which I think is important because the majority of our time is not spent together in a classroom. So I make sure they know how they can ask questions and get connected with me. So I always bring this list up to students during class. I usually record my lessons too, and I always have a reminder on the screen that either signals to me to get the recording started, or students will remind me too. The recordings are really nice if students are absent. They can watch the recording on their own time and not miss anything from class. So that's been a huge benefit to teaching online. All right, and I think we'll keep moving forward. So how do I teach art online? It is a unique subject to teach virtually. So usually I get asked where I teach from. I teach from my home. This is a picture of my office from last year. I've moved around a lot too since I've started teaching with BVA. So I think I've lived in 3 or 4 different homes since I started teaching. So that's been a nice benefit as well. We're not stuck in one area. And some things to point out, I do have 2 screens. I'll be using my document camera, which I have up on this shelf at one point. So there are ways to, different ways to connect with students and share content. Art supplies are really important for my classes. So all of the art supplies are ordered through Amazon and shipped directly to the family. So all of my students have the same supplies. I think consistency does help, rather than just giving them a list of things to order. Students love getting their supplies at the beginning of the school year too. It's a very exciting time. And I do choose the supplies needed for each class. Families order them through a Google form. And then our office takes care of it from there. So I can choose what we focus on. This would be for a drawing class. I do have painting classes, and I have independent classes too, where some students have even learned how to throw pottery on a potter's wheel. So we have done some ceramics. That's a little bit more rare. Drawing is and painting is more common. Okay, so here's what my weekly schedule looks like. Another misconception of teaching online is that our students and teachers are on Zoom all day, every day, and that sounds exhausting, but that's not true. I usually teach at least 1 live class per day. Each class I meet with once a week. And every teacher's schedule looks a little bit different. So some classes might meet every day or every other day. Mine are just weekly. I also have a flex art class, like I mentioned, which is more of independent students, and they meet by appointment. So this is what my schedule looks like right now. When I'm not in a live class, I'm grading, giving feedback, planning and posting lessons. Planning lessons, I feel like takes a lot longer online, but I feel more intentional with what I teach because of our limited time together. I also can meet with students individually or teams of teachers, or sometimes we have full staff meetings. Students' Day in comparison, again, can look different just depending on the family and the student. Our families feel very connected to the school. So if we ever need help reaching out to a student, the families are usually really supportive and helpful with getting connected with students and keeping them on track. So having that connection with families is really important to our success as well. Okay, so class routines look a little bit different online. So I set expectations for in class in the blue and outside of class in the teal. I keep all of my general information about classes in a Google site. This is shared with students and families, and this is where I house all the basic information about my classes. So these expectations are the same throughout my different classes that I teach, and I post other information about myself and my classes. So students can also look at what courses are available and get an idea of what they might want to take in the future. So that is a helpful resource to be able to send out as a way to communicate with families. And as Mr. Hagemeister mentioned earlier, there are different ways to connect and learn online. So synchronous learning is like what we're doing right now. So through Zoom, in our case, so students are learning together at the same time and place. Asynchronous learning, students are learning and accessing information at their own pace. And this is done through Google Classroom for us. So that is the platform that we use to distribute information. And this does take a mindset shift, I've noticed. So it's just different from learning in a school building. And in my experience, going from teaching in a classroom to online, I have been giving my students more like choice and freedom in their projects, which is really nice. So they get a lot more independence, and they do really well with it, which I really enjoy seeing. So a little bit about what my classroom looks like, since it is online. Again, we use Google Classroom, and this is where students access their lessons and submit projects. I'm going to share what it looks like on my end of things. So this is my intro to art class. The stream is kind of like a bulletin board where everything gets posted. I can add announcements. This is a reminder for a project that was due the other day. I could post some fun things too, just to get students engaged in different ways. This classwork tab has all their assignments on it. I post meeting slides that look a lot like what we're using today. So this was from yesterday, and I can post the recording there for anyone who is absent. And my lessons, so these are graded projects. Students can get the directions here. I use Google Slides a lot. Other teachers will use things like Nearpod. There's lots of different ways to distribute the information. So that's a little bit about what my classroom looks like. Oftentimes, we're teaching each other at Bridges Virtual Academy. So teachers share what they do to engage students. So this is how I do it. Other teachers might do it very differently. Okay, so for live meetings, so Google Classroom would be asynchronous. Synchronous learning would be through Zoom. I try to get students talking and interacting as much as possible. That's always my goal. I want them to feel part of a community and make friends and build relationships. So that's my goal through live meetings. And one way I make sure that happens is by including breakout sessions in every meeting. I can give my class editing access to these slideshows so I can watch them type on their screen as they're going through whatever questions or tasks I give them for the day. So that's a really helpful trick. Because you can't be in every breakout room to monitor what they're talking about. But I can see if they're on task or not through the different tools that you choose to use in your classes. Let's see. So typically when we're ready to start breakout sessions, this is kind of how I'll introduce it to students. And I'll get them sorted into breakout rooms using the controls from the speaker point of view. I usually assign the rooms that they're going to just based on the strengths of the different students or who they feel comfortable talking with, because I do want them talking in their groups. I usually have roles for them to either choose from, or again, I can assign them. This was a smaller group, so I just had roles of artist and critic. Sometimes I have bigger groups and we'll have leaders and speakers, recorders, helpers, lots of different tasks. So I make sure everyone has something that they're responsible for. So this is an example that I pulled right from one of my classes. They were sharing their progress on a watercolor painting. So this is the activity we went through. Well, they went through pretty much on their own. I just get to sit back and listen. And I can see their feedback too. So one of the students was recording what they talked about for each person. And then as I'm grading, it's helpful for me to see what they already talked about and then give them feedback. Maybe I agree with what their group was saying, or maybe I disagree, or maybe I ask them more questions as I'm grading. So this is what a typical conversation looks like between students. I also will give them different tasks to do together. So in this example, students were looking at, this is the artist David Hockney. So they were looking at two of his pieces and comparing them. And this was in preparation, I believe, for a landscape painting. And I like to just ask simple questions when it comes to looking at artwork. So I see, I think, I wonder is what they talk about. And in this case, they made a Venn diagram since they were looking at two different images. They looked at what was different in each one and similar. So this might be an activity that you're used to doing in person at a table together, but it's still very possible to do it online too. It takes a little bit of creativity and planning ahead, but students do really well with that. They are amazing with technology. So they find a lot of success in these activities. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a live demonstration. You can follow along if you have paper and pencil. It's okay. But to teach an argument camera. So this is the camera that's above my desk. You should be able to see my paper and my hands moving. I always double check that everything is working because there are times when it doesn't. So this is a really simple activity that anybody could do. So like I said, if you want to participate, go ahead. It's called a neurographic design. It's kind of a meditative practice. So it can be a very calming activity to do with students. I can also teach them some basic skills like shading, and they can incorporate it in this design too. So this is what a finished one could look like. There's probably thousands of different ways to do this. But to start, you can use any tool. I like to start with pens. Start your line at the edge of the paper and let it wander around the page. And it just needs to end off of the page again. And you can add as many lines as you want. Sometimes I ask students to think about like how they're feeling or what they're thinking about today. Maybe they're nervous to give a presentation and this helps calm them down. And you can add as many lines as you want. Then to get this webbing effect, all you do is find where there are corners or edges in your design and can use your pen or pencil to round those out and fill in that space. And this can be time consuming, but like I said, it's very meditative and calming. So once that step is done, then you can add other elements to your design like color or lines, texture, whatever you can think of. And you can use any materials too. So if you want to continue working on that while I finish my presentation, you can. And one helpful thing to do like while I'm demonstrating live is ask for student understanding and feedback. So I think that is one benefit to demonstrating live. I'm going to switch back to my presentation and show you other ways to demonstrate. This is a video I created. I'm gonna let it play, but I don't think you'll be able to hear the sound. And actually I'm gonna pause it because I can hear the sound and it's distracting. So I recorded this using my document camera. And this practice took a long time to create. So I think this demonstration took me about 30 minutes to create, but I can use editing tools to speed it up. And then I created like a script to talk through what I was demonstrating. Students don't want to watch a 30-minute video. So I tend to try to keep it between like 5 and 7 minutes. That's about the length of the attention span or what they can focus on, which is great because then I don't have to make my videos like feel super fancy, like I'm on a television show or anything like that. I make them very like simple and straightforward. So in this example, they could pause if they need to catch up with me. If they're doing this activity while they're working, they can rewind, start again. Those are huge benefits to creating video instruction. So this usually supplements my live demonstrations because the live ones I try to keep really short and quick and interactive so students can ask questions about that skill. The pre-recorded ones are nice when it's a longer activity or skill that students have to work on kind of on their own too. So this might be done asynchronously. And one more thing about creating your own videos, I think it's really helpful for students to see you demonstrating the skills. I do use YouTube videos quite often, but just again, having that connection to you as the teacher is really beneficial to your environment in the classroom. So again, I mentioned this, I do use YouTube videos and ask students to go through it on their own. So this lesson I'll actually be teaching soon. So this is what their assignment in Google Classroom might look like. So this is what they would go through on their own. So I give them prompts for what to do throughout the lesson. And yeah, just kind of go through what they need to know and work through on their own. And this video that I was showing is in this lesson as well, with other instructions to follow along with. And then I usually end with what to add to their portfolio in this case, or into Google Classroom. And to kind of shift gears away from what we do as our individual class or as individual students, and Mr. Hagemeister mentioned at the beginning that we do have unique opportunities to collaborate with each other as teachers or students. It's honestly a lot easier to collaborate online than it was in a school building. We don't need to coordinate bus rides or anything like that. So this is an example of a collaboration with my high school students and the 3 through 5 grade band. So elementary and high school students were working together. The elementary students wrote essays about what they think the mascot should be to represent BVA, and then high schoolers brought their ideas to life with these drawings. So here are a few examples of how our students collaborated, and this is just a fun way to connect students throughout the school virtually, and yeah, to get the younger kids excited about taking classes like art in the future. Okay, so we'll end with a quick review. What topics did we talk about today? So I went through our weekly schedule and routines, talked about synchronous versus asynchronous learning. You got to see a little bit about our live meetings, what breakout sessions could look like, my live demonstrations. I did list some resources for teaching virtually, and collaborations is just a really unique opportunity and really fun way to get connected with your school too. I did add this video. I like watching TED Talks and this person talked a lot about making Zoom more human. So how can you make that experience feel more lifelike and engaging and exciting? So she does kind of reiterate a lot of the things I was demonstrating today. So you can watch that on your own if you'd like. I don't know if this link will work anymore. We used to use this app to remove ads from videos, and now there are different tricks to use to remove ads from YouTube videos. Another helpful thing to keep students focused when they're online, because YouTube and any website you use, there's going to be so many other clickable things to distract students. So ad-free videos is another good tip to use when teaching online. Okay. So I usually end with an exit ticket. And again, you can do this on your own. If you want to add your answers to the chat, that's fine too. But I like to conclude my classes with something for students to think about or reflect on. So here's a 3, 2, 1 exit ticket. So 3 things you discovered, 2 questions you still have, 1 thing you're going to try on your own. This is a really easy exit ticket to use with any lesson. Maybe my questions are more specific to that lesson. Sometimes I like to just gauge where students are at. Do they have lots of questions about this lesson, or are they ready to get started? If they seem unsure, then I invite them to stick around for a little bit longer to ask questions or share ideas too before they leave, because I want to make sure, since we only see each other once a week, that they know what they're doing on their own time and feel connected to me or to their classmates enough to feel comfortable reaching out if they need to. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. I think we will answer questions if you have them. And here is my contact information. I'm Rachel Akey Podol, and then our director's contact information as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very interesting, and I'm sure, like, lots of teachers got interesting in that. And let us open the floor for questions and answers, unless, like, Mr. John, if you have anything to share, then we can open the floor, yeah, to questions and answers. Yeah, so I also learned some really 3 good techniques from your presentation. Yeah, how to use, the drawings and essays. This is a good combination, like how we can use the art and also just, for language enhancement, and also just, language learning, which is very good. And also just, some good really tips that you shared. They are very, very helpful. Thank you so much. And so if we look in the chat box, some of our participants have already put some questions there. If you want, I can read those questions to you, and you can just, see those questions yourself. And you all who are watching us via Zoom and Facebook, please don't be shy, ask your questions. And of course, like, yeah, Miss Rachel will be happy to respond to your question. So let me read the quick question. So the question, I guess, comes from Facebook viewers. So our followers on Facebook asking, what are some of the benefits of using art projects and activities in language learning?
Well, for me as a student, you can imagine I was really interested in art. So any way that like a teacher could bring art into a history class, English class, that automatically got me engaged. So I think if your students are interested in art, that's an easy way to connect with them and engage them in the lesson. One cool thing that I can share real quick too. I do bring English into my classes too, in different ways. So right now, students are participating in this. It's an international challenge at this point, but it was started as a just fun way for artists to connect. It's called Inktober. So every day students get, or artists around the world get, a new word. So today the word is spicy, but some words kind of trick students, like which one were we talking about quite a bit? I think we were talking about bounce the other day, because some students were like, how do I draw bounce? So then we talk about different meanings of the words or different ways to illustrate that word. And I do tend to bring this type of conversation into some of my other lessons too. Like one in my 8th grade class, they're doing fantastic hair day. So they're talking about like the word fantastic, how the origins of that word and how they can use that idea in their drawings. So I think if you can make your lessons visual in any way, for those visual learners, it's helpful, and it really gets students' imagination going too.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Ms. Rachel. And then the next question, what are some resources that English teachers can use to learn more about using art in language learning?
That's a good question. I think because art is part of our curriculum, um, that gives teachers kind of an incentive to use those words. And I think, again, thinking about those different meanings of words and how they're used across the curriculum. So some words like rhythm can be used in art and in music. So finding those resources that are specific to you. I guess for me, I use Google Arts and Culture a lot to find examples of artwork. I would imagine this is available in your country as well. But this site, Google Arts and Culture, has a ton of lessons that you can use from it. You can find lots of examples and ideas on how to incorporate different artwork into your teaching. The games are really fun for students. Yeah, so I think this would be a good resource to start with if you want to incorporate art and using art to describe what you see or what you're learning, to kind of bring that visual to learning English too.
I think Google Arts and all the resources there, they are very helpful to boost the imagination, yes, and also to boost the creativity of both students and teachers. And they can be created more creative ways out of them. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, thank you so much. And next question. Uh, what are some tips for engaging students in online activities, especially students who may be shy or reluctant to participate?
I think for shy or reluctant students, those small breakout rooms are key, because if you have just a group of 3 or 4 students versus 30, the shy students are more likely to talk and engage in those smaller groups. So I think that that's going to be key. And in a larger group, you're going to have those like 5 students that are always like raising their hands, ready to talk. And I think, again, in the smaller groups, those students I see become the leaders in the small group, and I encourage them to engage their classmates and make sure everyone is talking in their group. So I do my best to model that, to encourage everyone to participate when I'm in the big classroom setting. And then in small groups, that's where you can say, like, hey, John, how are you doing on your assignment? What are your ideas for this activity? And every once in a while, you're still going to have those students that won't talk in class. The chat is really helpful too. Some students don't want to talk out loud, so they might talk in the chat. I just keep it open for however they feel comfortable to participate is how I want them to participate. And I see that that trust grows over time if I just kind of give them the confidence to participate how they feel comfortable. I've noticed some of my very shy students have made a lot of progress throughout the semesters. And I do encourage students to share their artwork, which sometimes students do not want to do that. So I also give them the opportunity to just talk to me about their artwork too. So if they don't feel comfortable in the big group, which this is rare, but if they just want to talk to me, so they at least get that practice talking about their artwork. And I can eliminate any of those things that just make them scared or shy or whatever. And then hopefully they grow that confidence over time too.
I wanted to just say that there are resources that you can use that help with engagement too. All of our teachers in some form or fashion use a tool called Nearpod. And then of course there's also discussions. You can use discussion posts in Google Classroom that allows students to interact asynchronously. But with Nearpod, that's a tool that if teachers use it in a certain way, it allows all students to interact without speaking. They can interact with think of a math problem. They could all be working on it together. The teacher can pose a question and they can all respond to it, and it allows the teacher to get that formative feedback to see if students are understanding what's happening in the lesson. But it also gives students a little bit more confidence to respond because they know everybody is, and they're not like in the forefront with their picture in the middle of a Zoom screen. They're just able to kind of respond that way. So that's a good tool too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. John and Miss Rachel. And we have next question. Okay, did you have any challenge when you teach art online? So do you have actually, yes? Or maybe you do.
Yes.
Please go ahead and share what were the challenges and how you overcame them.
So I taught high school in a traditional setting for 6 years, and a lot of my favorite projects that I did in the traditional setting, I either had to forget and move on from, or find a way to adapt it for online learners. So I think what I teach has totally changed since I've been teaching online. I've been able to bring back some of my favorite projects. It is like for art, it's challenging that sometimes I can't like be right there next to the student and interact with them while they're trying to draw this thing that's really challenging them, and I can't just like take their pencil and show them how to do it. So I have to find different ways. So one solution I try is I can use like a picture of their project and draw on it digitally to show them, okay, this is maybe how I can help you make this thing look more realistic. Sometimes even if we just talk through it, I've noticed that like when I just put my trust in the students, they figure it out. So some of the things I wasn't sure that they'd be able to learn online, they've been able to figure out through video or just talking through their problems too. So yeah, I think that was the scary part and challenging part of switching from in-person art teaching to online, is that person to person, I can physically pick up their pencil and show them how to do it versus I have to find ways to do this online. And it's possible. That's what I've learned. It is possible.
Okay, thank you so much. We have next question. Was BVA established after COVID-19, and what is the mission of Bridges Virtual Academy?
I put our mission statement in the chat. Our mission has always been to provide a personalized education that develops students into independent learners. It's our belief that learning specific content is important, but learning how to learn is more important. So all of the strategies that we use from the elementary grades all the way through high school are geared to allow students to develop their skills, but also to learn how to understand the way that they learn best, so that no matter what setting they go into as an adult, they can learn. And we were not established after the COVID-19. We were established in 2012. And so our contribution during the COVID years was pretty significant in our own district. And also our support of parents who had never experienced online education for their students before was also very significant. Our enrollment increased by about 300 students during that time. Actually, it was more like 400 or 500 students. We went from about 700 students to almost 1,200. And there was some adjustments we had to make. We had to hire additional staff. We had to focus more on orienting students to the online environment, because we had a lot of students that were coming from a traditional environment. But we were really in a good position to do that. And we, other than the increased enrollment, our program continued as normal, and we had success that year too with those students. It brought new students to us, some that had never even considered doing online learning. And then we had new staff that came to us that had never considered it before either, but because of the situation, they were interested in working for us, and we still have some of them on board. So it was a great time for us as far as demonstrating the effectiveness of what we do, because I think before that, sometimes people look at online learning as sort of a nuance or maybe an alternative, for people that can't do it in the traditional setting. But I think we demonstrated, and we continue to demonstrate, that it's more than that. It's just a different way to learn. And for the record, I was Rachel's principal when she was in middle school.
Yeah.
So,
That is fun working with teachers that I've had in the past too, now that I'm back with the Merrill School District.
mm,
And I do have to say that Bridges is really good with onboarding new students and teachers. So even before school starts, students are meeting with their advisors and families are learning more about Bridges before school even starts. And then the first week of school is orientation and just figuring out how to use Zoom and Google Classroom and all these different tools that teachers might incorporate in their classroom. So I think that's really important too when you're teaching online, and to repeat those routines throughout the school year. Like, how do I find the lessons? How do I get to class? Sometimes this can be a challenge. The link might stop working for whatever reason. So yeah, orienting students to whatever process you use in your virtual classroom is really important.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I'm really curious, like, you probably have some, graduate students, just who graduated from one grade and maybe just moved to another one. Do you have some virtual graduation ceremony, or at least like, you just, you probably bring them to in-person graduation, or how it happens?
we
That's
do.
interesting.
We
Good.
do have a graduation ceremony that's in person, and we do it here in Merrill, which is in north central Wisconsin. And the majority of our students are from the southern part of the state. They're actually kind of all over. And it's a lot of times that's the first time the students interact with each other in person, is when they come to that graduation ceremony. We did not have a graduation ceremony our first year. And then our second year, I think we had about 12 or 13 high schoolers that were graduating, and I think 7 of them attended. And we started with a small, more like a dinner where we interacted. It was a beautiful setting that we took them to, but then within 2 years that expanded, and now we have an auditorium that we use, and we probably have, I think last year we had 300, 400 attendees for the 50 graduates.
Yeah, that's really great. And I assume like, the number is increasing year by year.
It is, but we're able to set a limit.
Mhm.
And we have to, because otherwise the staffing would be kind of a challenge, just because of the way we hire and contracts, the way they work. It's better for us to set the limit and know that it's not going to go beyond a certain number so that we can staff appropriately.
Mm. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And we also have, I guess, the last question. How can teachers use art projects and activities to help students develop critical thinking skills?
Yeah, this is key for teaching art online, because it is more challenging for me if I chose to teach in this way to show a step and then the students copy that step and back and forth, especially at the secondary levels. So grades 6 through 12 is what I teach. They want to dive in deeper into themes and ideas, versus just learning like specific techniques or going through the steps of a specific project. So for my students, again, I try to keep the projects open-ended. So that might be more so giving them like a theme or an idea to work with, or they come up with the theme or idea to work with. And then through our conversations in class, I noticed the students are asking deeper questions and thinking more critically about their own work and other people's work. And professional artists too, they're not shy to criticize or praise the professional artists too. So I think over time they do start to develop those critical thinking skills because they're working on projects that interest them specifically. So for instance, right now my advanced art students are learning about how to draw people. For this case, I teach them the basics about drawing people and then ask them to come up with their own project based on the skills that I've taught them. Sometimes I do it in reverse where I say, okay, here's a big idea, use the skills that you've learned to create something based on this big idea. And I think the critical thinking skills really come from the conversations they have in class with each other. Um, I just try to ask open-ended questions and guide them, yeah, versus giving them very specific things to think about or focus on.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And my daughter is also engaged in art, so she likes like painting and everything, and she likes also doing design. Like, I was just wondering, do you track your students, post study achievements, and maybe just you see that they are going directly into arts and they are like participating in some international contests and like becoming yeah, and bringing more achievement. I mean, just because of your investment in them and also because of they studied in you. So do you have this kind of like stories, success stories?
Um, Yes and no, because it is hard to keep track of them after graduation. I have some students that reach out to me and they'll maybe email me or through like Instagram or Facebook, they'll send stuff like, hey, I was working on this painting like during my college courses or whatever. I had a student this summer reach out and she just started, I think she went into musical education or something like that in college. So she is using the arts in her future. But it has been, yeah, it's more difficult to keep connected because they're all over the place. It's not like when I was living and teaching in one setting and I might run into them at the grocery store and then we'd talk. Do you have any other input, Mr. Hagemeister?
No, we do send out a survey asking students what their future plans are when they graduate from our school. and we probably get about 60 to 70% of those back. But then after that year, occasionally we'll hear from someone. Occasionally we'll have like a university or an employer reach out to us, but mostly we don't track that information. It's just difficult.
Yeah.
So we're just assuming that they're all very successful
Yes.
leaders,
Yeah,
just changing the
already
world.
empowered.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And here is the last question, I guess, popped up. So Natya, she's from Georgia, Caucus. Yeah. And she's asking, we have a very diverse classes, kids from 5, 6 different countries, and the very basic communication is a problem. In what ways can I use art project in this case?
Okay. That is hard because for our case, the students are from all over Wisconsin. So they have different backgrounds just based on whether they're in a big city or more likely in a rural area. But they all, have basic communication skills. There are some cases where we have to work with students more individually to get them up to speed with the rest of the class. Art, I think, can help like level the playing field. So some students who really excel in math or science or whatever, maybe they struggle a little bit in art, and some of the students that struggle in math or science excel in art. So sometimes art is just that common language, I guess, that all students can find a way to be successful. So I hope that helps answer the question. I'm not sure about how to, teach art with different students from different countries, but I think anybody can look and respond to artwork, whether it is verbally or maybe through another creative way to communicate ideas.
Yeah, I think like TPR could be also very helpful in this sense, like, total physical response when the teacher just draws and explains everything word by word, and then like, so and saying these action verbs, and also just, asking them to do this basic things. And I'm sure like, even like, putting some basic words and sharing it through the screen share. I think this will help build, some communication, you know, um, word list. Yeah. And based on that, then of course, like, as they move on, yeah, the word list will increase, and they will be using the words quite independently afterwards. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
art does engage all of those different senses. So their sight, they're moving, they're thinking. So I think art can help strengthen whatever skills you're working on just because it's fully engaging.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you so much. We have so many wonderful comments in the chat box, and our teachers are already figuring out how to use those ideas that you shared through the webinar. And once again, we are extending our deepest gratitude to both of you, to Bridges
Thank
Virtual
you.
Academy. And yes, so it was quite interesting. And so I guess this is your first time, yeah, for making a webinar to
I think
different
it's our
countries.
second. Well, what did we do
Yeah.
last time?
Yeah, so we got connected because a teacher that's involved with English Without Borders visited Wisconsin.
Oh, that's
and
right. Yeah.
she saw my presentation and recommended it. So, but they were in Wisconsin, and so the time difference wasn't as extreme. And yeah, this was a new experience. It was fun.
Exactly, yes. And we can see how the world can bring yeah, all the people together, and also just discover the better ways how we can just, incorporate some really great tools from art, from, from different fields, and make teaching more engaging and more interesting. Yeah. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much for doing a great job. And thank you, dear participants, for being active and asking your questions. And of course, just we believe that this is not the last webinar with you, and we'll be welcoming, yeah, more exciting webinars in the future with Bridges Virtual Academy. Once again, thank you so much, dear all, and we will be happy to see you next Thursday webinar. And please follow us to stay tuned on English Without Borders updates and highlights. Thank you so much. See you someday
Thanks
in
a
the
lot for
digital.
wonderful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.